Fraser's Ridge comes to fruition. Jamie has a fight with a bear, and we're talking about Roger again, right here on today's episode of Outlander Sunday. That's coming up right after this. Hello everybody, and how are you doing? Welcome to today's episode of Outlander Sunday with me, Shaun. I am a vlogger from Edinburgh in Scotland. I talk all about Scottish culture, I take you guys on adventures, and I tell you some pretty damn good stories sometimes, right? And I also talk about Outlander every Sunday after the new episode is aired. And in today's episode we're talking about Outlander episode 404, Common Ground.
The Indian I saw, what if he knows that something bad happens here?
Shooting continuity in Outlander Season 4. Let's get to that in a little minute. We also need to be talking about Jamie and the bear. Very, very important. And we also need to talk about Roger and Brianna. Things are going on in this episode. A lot happened. So let's talk about it. But first of all, I just want to say welcome to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on this Outlander adventure. It is great to be with you right here on my channel every single week. If you're new here, please do not forget to hit that subscribe button and click the notification bell, because that would just be everything to me. You will have joined the clan, you'll be part of the family. And I'm on the race now to 100,000 subscribers. That would be a huge milestone for me. And if I reach 100,000 subscribers, I'm going to be doing something epic that I don't quite know yet. Right, okay, Outlander 404, Common Ground. So as we already knew from last week's episode, Jamie had the intention of setting up Fraser's Ridge. They had found a plot of land, but we open the episode with some native Indians, and we know that they're going to make an appearance in this episode one way or another. They are in it at the opening, the Indians, and I always thought it's going to be interesting when they make an appearance and how the conflicts potentially could play out. The Scottish settlers, Claire and family and all that, and then the native Indians who were always on that land. How would that play out? Well, we got part of our answer today in the beginnings. Anyway, we see Jamie going back to the town where he meets the main guy in charge. I keep forgetting his name, the English soldier guy. He's not a soldier. Jamie calls him Your Excellency. I'm going to call him Your Excellency too. So Jamie goes to Your Excellency and signs a document saying that Jamie's basically agreed to take his offer to settle land, and Jamie's been given 10,000 acres, which is the plot of land that him and Claire stumbled upon. But it looks like a great place to set up camp, right? A good place to start a home, lots of land for farming, a nice valley, a river. But of course we know the Cherokee Indians already live in that area, so there was going to be a conflict right from the start. And we see in the discussions with Jamie and Your Excellency that the Indians have been coming into conflict with landowners, and then landowners have not been paying tax, and there's all sorts of issues cropping up for Your Excellency and His Majesty. And then Jamie recounts the line he was told, that there is a law and then there is what is done. And I took that to mean that in the name of progress, anything towards their version of progress would be permissible. It was nice to see a wee return of Marsley and Fergus getting ready to have a baby and all that kind of stuff, discussions of missing her mum back in Scotland. But one thing I thought was weird at the start of this episode, really odd, another kind of continuity thing, not the main thing I'm going to be talking about in a minute, but one thing is last week we saw young Ian go off with John Quincy Myers on his own, and they would be trading with Indians somewhere in the mountain range. And I thought we would see that story play out today in this episode, but we didn't. It just didn't happen. Instead, young Ian simply arrived back with the group with no story to tell. I did think that was odd. Last week when I saw the episode, I thought, oh, young Ian's going off with John Quincy Myers and they're going to run into some kind of problems. But like, they just kind of skipped over it. I think that might have been something they shot and deleted, maybe. I don't know if that was something that was a part in the book that was important. Anyway, they've just skipped over it in the show. John Quincy Myers, he's turned out to be a great character in this story so far. I'm really enjoying his presence. He's played by an actor called Kyle Reese, who, by the way, is on Twitter. He sent me a tweet last week after the episode saying he watched it and liked my review, so there's a win. Anyway, we see young Ian, Jamie and Claire with Rollo and all the horses and that. They're plotting their grounds. They've got their 10,000 acres, basically outlining their plot of land that they've got for Fraser's Ridge. And it was really cool to see the areas they filmed in Scotland with all those really kind of old, mature Scottish woods. And then building out the land and then coming across Indians who, from the outset, I think in this episode, were very intimidating and clearly did not want the presence of the three of them there, because they really, really soon into the episode picked up the markers and chucked them back at Jamie Jamie, which was basically a warning sign that we don't want you here, you should not be doing what you're doing here. Which, to be honest, puts Fraser's Ridge in jeopardy right from the beginning of the episode, and we're thinking, can this work? But anyway, nonetheless, they push on, they start to build, they're starting to build their home to get going with their new settlement in Fraser's Ridge. But here's the thing, this is the continuity part that I was going to talk to you guys about, right? This is kind of a filmmakery technical type of thing, but it also is something that has a wider interest because a lot of you guys who are from the United States of America or just North America in general will want to talk about the setting that we have been seeing over the last couple of weeks, which is supposed to portray North Carolina. But as we all know, they shot the scenes in Scotland. Everybody was a little bit worried and apprehensive about that in the beginning, but I think we can all agree the landscape looks exactly like North Carolina. I don't know that for sure because I've never been to North Carolina. I will be going next year, maybe. Hopefully, fingers crossed, but I don't know for sure. But a lot of you guys who actually live there say it really fits the bill. It looks like the real place, which is great. But I think they might have slipped up a little bit in today's episode. There's a couple of things I noticed, which just threw me a little bit, it just annoyed me a little bit. Throughout those scenes shooting with the Indians coming and Jamie having conflicts with them, and the place where they built Fraser's Ridge, and then the place where Jamie went to find John Quincy Myers for some counselling, I am like 90% sure that they shot those scenes at very different times of the year in Scotland, because if you look at the scenes very closely, you'll see a really different setting. If you look at the scenes where they're building the house on that plot of land, there's a lot of rotting red leaves on the floor, the trees in the skyline is colourless, there's a deep pile of leaves on the ground. So it's clear to me that they shot those scenes late in autumn at the earliest, probably midwinter in Scotland. You could tell by the ground that it was all soaking wet as well when they were shooting those scenes. Soaking wet ground, leaves on the floor, bare trees. And I actually feel sorry for the cast because they're not wearing that much clothes. They are wearing clothing as if it's actually pretty warm where they are, but you can tell because it's the middle of winter in Scotland that it's actually freezing, so they would have been frozen acting those scenes out. So to hide that, they did a really great job. But when Jamie goes to meet John Quincy Myers and they have their discussions at John Quincy Myers' camp about the Indians and stuff, you can see that that is a very different time of year that they shot that, because the trees are bright green, everything around is green, the floor is dry. It's hard for me to criticise the production on this because Scotland is Scotland. It is cold in winter, it is dank in winter. They can't obviously shoot all the scenes that are together in one episode at one time of year. And also the thing is, in Scotland, it changes so quick between winter, spring and summer. And I know the scenes with John Quincy Myers were shot in an evergreen forest, and it looks like the ones where they were building the cabin is not totally evergreen. But nonetheless, you can just tell by the vegetation in the John Quincy Myers scenes, it's very bright green and definitely not midwinter in Scotland, and you can tell by the scenes where they're building the cabin that it is midwinter. It's maybe not a big issue, maybe it's just me thinking that, maybe a lot of you guys didn't even notice, but I just had that in the back of my mind. And yeah, I can actually see at the end of the episode in the Fraser's Ridge cabin where they're building it, you can actually see the ground looks like it has a little bit of frost in it. Maybe I'm taking this point too seriously, but as somebody who likes filmmaking, it's just something I noticed, and I want to know if you guys noticed it. Is that something you picked up on, the different times of the seasons, and it looked like they shot in different times of year? Anyway guys, let's move on from that. Let's talk about Jamie and the bear, because this is a really important scene that everybody who loves the books talks about. I try and avoid spoilers, but it's been difficult to avoid this one. Everybody has been anticipating the bear scene, and we got it in today's episode. And I would be really fascinated to know what book readers think about this, because they've changed it. In the books, apparently, it was a real bear that Jamie was fighting. And to be honest, that we think throughout this episode, up until the crucial point, that it's actually a real bear as well. And I think they have done this storyline really intelligently to make us think that there's a real bear in these woods, attacking people, attacking the horse. Did you see the poor horse? There is a bear in these woods and it's eating their food. It is scaring them at night. Rollo is deeply concerned by this bear. Rollo is off in the woods doing his thing, trying to catch it. Rollo, by the way, can I just say, young Ian's dog Rollo is a beautiful dog, and he came through in this episode so much with his expressions. Did you see his ears flopping? He's just such an adorable dog. I'm a huge dog lover as it is. I love dogs. Rollo, for me, has been a huge thing in this season so far. I love Rollo to bits. Long live Rollo, that is all I can say. It's great to have him in this episode. But then we see the Indians coming back into this and their connection with the bear. We kind of get this split scene where Jamie, Claire and young Ian are fighting with guns and knives trying to find out where this bear is. And then we've got the Indians dancing in their tent, that they seem to be conjuring the spirit of the bear. And then we're thinking, is this bear being controlled by the Indians? And then like, Jamie's out in the dark on his own. He's got this torch, a fire torch, but he's after the bear. And we're thinking, this can only go one way. There's going to be a fight with this bear between Jamie and the bear, and it's going to be bloody and it's going to be awful.
You'll get yourself killed.
John Quincy Myers is found on the ground, scoured by this bear. He's been attacked. And you kind of think, Jamie, do you really want to be doing this? John Quincy Myers is a bear of a man on his own, and like, he just got slayed by it. How are you going to deal with this bear? But he goes off anyway. Of course he's going to go off and try and fight this bear. He takes a shot and misses, and then we're thinking, great, now you're going to have to reload your gun, which takes about a fortnight with those muskets. The bear gets closer and closer, and then we realise, because Claire spots on John Quincy Myers a bite mark that is not by a bear, and that's when we twig, what is going on here? We see the bear, and then we notice it's a man in a bear costume. What the heck is going on here? And he has like this costume with like nails properly so that he can gouge like a bear would gouge. Jamie, using his Scottish fighting spirit like he did in the battles of Culloden and all that kind of thing, manages to kill the bear, the human man bear. He puts it on a crate and tows it to the Indian camp because he had been wanting to make peace with the Indians. He'd asked John Quincy Myers how to do this, and so he decides to take the man dressed as a bear to the Indian camp. And by the way, the bear guy was Indian as well. So we're thinking this could be either really good for Jamie or really, really bad when he goes into this camp. And then we get the story, right? The guy is actually somebody who'd actually been expelled from the Cherokee camp a long time ago and had lived in the woods as a madman ever since, attacking the Indians as well. They were very pleased with Jamie that he had actually killed this bear. The Indians come back to thank Jamie and Claire and actually give Jamie the nickname, the Bear Killer. How cool is that? Young Ian thinks it's cool as well. You saw that, didn't you? Anyway, it looks like it's happy ever after for Jamie. They've obviously dodged a big bullet. They could have been really big enemies with the Cherokee Indians, but because of this bear connection that they have now, the Indians are now very favourable to the family as well. So I think that was done really, really well, because we needed this connection where Jamie, Claire and young Ian, the family, became close to the Indians in some sense. They became friendly, because up until that point they were only fighting and we thought this is going to end in bloodshed. They can't put Fraser's Ridge there if the native Cherokee are going to be really hostile to them, if there are bears in the woods. So I thought that was just a really, really cool connection, a good way to do it. In one foul swoop, Jamie killed two birds with one stone, you could say. But anyway guys, listen, I would love to know your thoughts on that bear scene, because everybody who read the books has been anticipating this because it was a big part of the books. And in the books, Jamie fought with a real bear. What did you guys, book readers, think about that change? For me, as somebody who hasn't read this book, who is watching the show fresh, I liked the way they did it. I thought it was a good intro to the Indian Cherokee tribe, a good way for them to make friends, and I just enjoyed it. But like, you guys who read the books and love the books might not think the same. Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to know your thoughts on this. Anyway, another big important part of this episode that we need to talk about is Roger and Brianna, because like throughout this episode, we're now going back and forward in time like we have done in Outlander before, but now we're going back in time quite a lot to see the story of Roger and Brianna playing out. And like we left on a really bad taste last week, unfortunately things don't get better this episode, right? Roger's back at his work in Oxford University. He's a teacher there, so that obviously means he had left Brianna, but he finds something that's really important. A mention of Fraser's Ridge. He finds a place that we've been seeing in the episode come to fruition. He finds mention of it in the book that Brianna had gifted him about the Scottish people who had settled in North America. And he does his research. He speaks to the person who wrote that book, and she sends him back land deeds that has Jamie's signature on it and letters that mention Claire as well. So he has literally solved the problem, solved the mystery of what happened to Jamie and Claire in one fell swoop. Gets on the phone to Brianna and tells her the great news.
Hello?
Brianna, I have some news about your mother.
And like, there's a coldness between them, and you can tell that Brianna's wanting something, but Roger is just not willing to take it any further. He just seems a bit cold of her. He's helping her out by giving her the news, but he's not being very forward about it. He's been very much a bit of a boring teacher, if I'm being honest with you guys. Like, I ended last week's episode talking about Roger saying, come on man, get a grip. And I find myself thinking that exactly the same thing today. He needed to be a bit more forward about himself, because like, he really cares about Brianna, and he's like playing it in a really dangerous way. He might end up losing her forever if he carries on like this. I know a lot of people don't agree with me. I think this one's split down the middle. A lot of people agree with Roger, how he acts, and a lot of people saying Brianna was wrong. I see it the other way around. I think poor Brianna. She's given all the signals, but he's not paying attention, is he? Although, let's give him some credit. He did the research, he found Jamie and Claire, he found Fraser's Ridge, he found the records of it, which is a huge, huge thing. And then we get to the end of the episode and we find another huge thing, or Roger finds another huge thing when he talks to Fee. We discover that Fee actually has a connection to the Standing Stones because of her family members that had some kind of dealings with it, and she knows all about Claire. Fee tells Roger she found some records, an obituary where Claire and Jamie have been killed in a fire at Fraser's Ridge. In the cabin, they're both dead, and only just a couple of years after they had settled there and built the house. This is awful news. He gets on the phone to Boston and tries to reach Brianna, but she's already left. She's already went to Scotland 2 weeks ago. And you can see in Roger's face, he's crushed. She came to Scotland to find her mum, and she didn't tell Roger. What is going on here? The episode ends, leaves us hanging there, with Roger looking really grumpy and sad. Admittedly, I felt bad for Roger at this point, really, really bad. What is going to happen with his relationship with Brianna now? Is he going to be angry with her? Is he going to be sad? Is he going to go after her? Come on, Roger, get after her. That was the end of the episode. It just left us on this cliffhanger of the fact that Brianna has actually come back to Scotland and Roger is in Oxford, but she didn't say anything. Does she want him to go after her? You kind of get the feeling that she might have already went back through the stones, maybe. Who knows? It's all very confusing, exciting, and who knows what next week can bring, but I'm actually looking really forward to that moment when Roger decides what he's going to do about it. Or maybe he decides to do nothing. I mean, the Roger that we've seen over the last couple of weeks, we might actually expect him to do nothing about this whatsoever. I hope he doesn't go down that route, otherwise he's just a complete idiot, and I give up on him. Roger, do not be that guy. Anyway guys, that was the episode. That was my review. That was my reaction to this episode. 404, Common Ground. And I think the Common Ground is just a nice little connection between the Indians and their land, and then Jamie and Claire and young Ian settling the land, and then them coming to this kind of agreement and joint kind of understanding of each other after the bear scene. I thought it worked really well on TV. I liked it a lot. I would love to know what you guys think of it, as always, in the comments. But guys, listen, I have got something I want to talk to you about in relation to season 4 in general of Outlander. And this is kind of hard for me to say and a bit confusing, right? And I only realised this after watching last week's episode and then going off to watch another series altogether, which is The Walking Dead. And I realised after watching The Walking Dead up until the most recent episode that they've published, but Outlander, it's not necessarily disappointed me this season. I just haven't been as gripped by it as I have in other seasons. Because as I've been watching The Walking Dead, it has literally left me gripped and making me feel like I can't wait for next week's episode, like I need to see it now. On the edge of my seat type of stuff. Outlander just has not provided me with that in this season so far. And it made me think like, am I not enjoying the season? That's not true, because I am enjoying the season. It's just, how can I say it? It's just, as much as I'm enjoying this season, it has not gripped me as much as previous seasons have. Maybe it's because it isn't in Scotland anymore, even though they're filming in Scotland. Maybe it's because this is a story about something that I'm unfamiliar with. Maybe that's why I'm struggling a little bit to have the connection. But anyway, listen, this week's episode kind of brought that feeling back a little bit. It is getting more exciting, it's getting more active, we're getting more into the story, and I am enjoying it. And I do look forward to next week's episode, and I will be watching the whole season, and we'll be doing these reactions every single week with you guys on Outlander Sundays. I kind of feel like I'm cheating here. I'm cheating on the Outlander with The Walking Dead. Sometimes you just can't help your feelings, right? Am I alone in this? Does anybody else feel like this? This is something I really want to know. But you know what? Outlander, I'm always going to love it one way or another. I'm into it. It's just an amazing show, amazing cast, an amazing production, filmed in Scotland still, and we're excited to see what happens to Jamie and Claire and family as they go forward, right? Anyway guys, listen, don't forget you can join Outlander the forum on Facebook. The link is up above. Also, don't forget I have got a wealth of videos on this channel all about Outlander. You can check them all out. I've put a playlist up above, and also down in the links below there is any number of Outlander tour videos, for example, on my channel. Speaking of tours, I can highly recommend a tour guide company called Rabbies in Scotland. They do amazing tours. There is a link for you guys to click down below for your Rabbies tour if you'd be interested in doing it and coming to Scotland. I have been on tours with those guys. They are amazing. I can highly recommend the experience of going with Rabbies if that is something you want to do in Scotland. And speaking of Outlander tours and Outlander videos on my channel, something I filmed as they were filming Outlander was the search for Fraser's Ridge, the place that they were actually shooting Fraser's Ridge, the woodlands that they used to shoot Fraser's Ridge, the stuff that I was talking about earlier on in today's episodes about the continuity. Those locations, I was on the hunt for where they were filming, and I found some of them, and I'm doing a little mini series on my channel starting tomorrow called The Search for Fraser's Ridge. First episode is tomorrow on my channel, tomorrow evening, and it's basically me going out there and looking for the set of Outlander. There are just 2 parts to this series, but I think you're going to enjoy it. And guys, if you're enjoying this Outlander content, all the Outlander tours I've been doing, and like the Search for Fraser's Ridge and all that, please do consider supporting my content on patreon.com. You can do so from $1 a month. The link is up above, patreon.com/ShaunVlog. You can also check out some of my merch in the links down below in the description of this video as well. Please do take a moment to read through the description and see if you like anything that I put there. I've also got a link to some cool Outlander products I found on Amazon. But that is it for this week's episode of Outlander Sunday. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to know what you think of the Outlander episode 404 down below in the comments as always. And please share this video with any of your friends or any Outlander groups that you might be a part of. Anybody you think might be interested in watching this. As I say, I'm trying to reach 100,000 subscribers on this channel. That would be amazing. And just thank you so much for everything. It is great to be talking about Outlander with you guys every single week right here on my channel. Great to have this conversation. I am forever grateful. So, until the next Outlander adventure, which by the way is tomorrow on this channel, as I said, I hope you have a good night, morning, evening, afternoon, or whatever time of day it is, wherever you are in the world. Take care.